Hello, my name is Ailyn Pérez, and this is Living the Classical Life.
Ailyn, it's so great to welcome you onto the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Schultz. I've been eager to meet you. I love your series, and such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. So, Ailyn, we are both from Illinois.
Yes!
Elk Grove, Champaign-Urbana. I'm just trying to get a sense. So, musicians on world stages, Illinois in this case, we're both from immigrant parents. That's our background.
What is your background? Hungarian?
Hungarian and Filipino.
Yes!
So
Lumpia!
I'm
sorry, I love it. Yeah.
What I'm trying to get a sense of, coming from that world near Chicago, immigrant parents, Mexican immigrant parents, and you're very clear in stating that, did that have an impact on you? Did that have an impact on your mindset? Could you even picture back then the life that you have today?
Oh, no. I mean, I was thinking on the ride here, I was traveling with my friend Afan, who always styles me. He's one of my best friends, and it's so amazing how I see. Remember at the beginning I was saying how far I've come. I think about my parents, they're both with me, and I think about life. I dreamed a dream of this happening, but I could never have imagined the details that just fell into place. Whether it was hardships or joys, like all of it is so, I'm so grateful. And I would say more than grateful, I'm still in awe of what my parents have achieved as immigrants into this country. They traveled, to a new country, new language, new social settings, and worked hard to give their kids, us, a better future. And I have not done that. I've been an opera singer, which is of course amazing and exceptional, but that's why I have the utmost regard, and I feel so proud. I mean, my parents will say they're very modest, and they're so proud of me, but my pride is if I'm able to show the warmth, the courage, the tenacity, the other-centeredness that my parents have shown me and my family has, that's success for me. That's a life well lived.
So you've made a point of stating publicly that your parents are immigrants.
Yes.
And I find that fascinating. You've also won the Sphinx Medal of Excellence.
Yes.
Based in Detroit, Black and Latino.
Excellence awards and encouragements, grants, yes.
Exactly. What does this all mean to you, and how does that factor into your mission as a performer?
It's remembering that I carry a story, again, beyond myself. So when I think that there's, for example, like I said, I couldn't have imagined this and my dreams come true. That is true. But I realize I represent more than, maybe it's an older sister thing, maybe it's also the complexity that we still need diversity in the arts, that we still have voices we're not hearing because of how they look. Whether it's deliberate or not, that's why I want to empower empower the people to feel empowered, there's a line, I don't know if it's a quote or just a saying, what you see is what you can be. So for me to have seen Ana Maria Martinez, Montserrat Caballé, I mean, to be fans of it,
Right,
you know,
of course.
Hispanic and Latina, I know Arteta from Spain, to have seen them in the business meant, ooh, you know, someone I could relate to the color of their sound, or to appreciate their beauty and know, like Verónica Villarruel from Chile, Cristina Gallardo Mas, also from Chile, to see people that, I mean, Rolando Villazón, to have seen his eyebrows and to be like, yes, you're my people. Like, we have these crazy eyebrows. Not crazy, but that it's almost, I guess for a feeling of someone who feels outcast, it gives you a sense of home, or it gives you a sense of safety, or it gives you a sense of you're welcome.
Well, let me
and
ask
so
you-
that's why I define it, because I think there's still work to be done to encourage more young Hispanic women, Latinx group to even, you know, be interested in music, to have access to instruments and musical programs, to develop their talent, to be a part of our audience, but also to be aware of, you know, Operalia, for example, is one of the best competitions because it's very inclusive of people from all backgrounds all over the world. So it's essentially, again, the work that is grounding, that I know is important, and I know I have the voice and the responsibility to keep underlying and highlighting that mission.
Well, let me ask you this. With that in mind, were there any points in your musical life or career during which you felt held back for any aspect of who you are?
I've been very grateful for, I think the way I look has served me to interpret the roles. I look like the way I sound, the way the character needs to look and sound. So I've benefited from that. However, part of the stretch is I can say, yes, I can sing this. I love this other language. Would you consider, you know, hearing me in this role? And that's part of, I don't think I'm held back, but it's scary to define yourself. You know, even actors, you know, one of my favorite actresses, Jessica Chastain, was interviewed and she said, she booked such incredible films over the last 5 years that were so varied, like really wildly different. And I think that it was lucky, and she said it was luck, but I feel that as who I am, I feel very lucky that I was cast as, you know, the dying heroine. But I do want to play a queen. I do want to play nobility. I would love to play Strauss. I would love to be of a different epoch and wear different masks and not feel that that how I look will hinder that. So no, I'm not held back, but I am pressing with that in mind of seeing, for example, a Latina Rosencavalier, you know, Isabel Leonard as Octavia, Nadine
Indeed.
Sierra as Sophie.
We've had both on the
Marshallin.
show.
I mean, we'd be happy.
Yes.
So we think, you know, those friendships also, as I'm meeting people in the business, when you get on with a great cast of people, you find, what else can we play? And to use our voices and say, yeah, that sounds like a great project. Let's put energy toward it and try to help people's imagination to think about that. So I think, yeah, I guess I'm not held back. I'm just aware that I need to create the narrative I'm hoping for.
So, in your case, Academy of Vocal Arts in Philadelphia, you graduated in 2006 and you were immediately touring with Andrea Bocelli. It doesn't sound like you had a period in which you needed to struggle to find your opportunities. Is that correct, that you just dove right into a career?
Yes, I dove into a lot at that time in my life, and I was very fortunate that the partner that I had picked at the time, we both had ongoing contracts and were able to have that kind of life together. And we had the people at AVA that were connecting us to these other performance opportunities, like with Andrea Bocelli. And as you know, as years go by and things change, I still tell young singers who are graduating, there's a setting in the music education system in the States where we are taught to be very versatile. We're taught to, engage in all of the languages that are potentially your bread and butter roles. And we're taught to have so much preparation in Mozart and in different musical styles before we really engage into Puccini or Verdi or Tchaikovsky or all of these things. And I think that in general, the structure is a good framework, but I also tell the students, listen, you have to choose. If you're the one with the gift, you're the one who is going to go into your practice room and dedicate your life to this music. Choose the music that speaks to you. You can gather people's opinion, but they're not going to be on stage with you.
Explore this concept a little bit about finding ourselves within a role. How does that translate to, say, Mimi or Violetta, these dramatic roles who are tubercular and dying of consumption? And in fact, the dying scenes last on and on. In some cases, with the setting and the staging, sometimes you're on your side in bed and singing. What does that look like in terms of your own personal experience that you're bringing to the role?
Oh, that's a great question. I find that because death scenes can linger and mad scenes linger, I think I have become aware of the danger of art imitating life, imitating art. So I now create, I work extra hard to meet friends, see my family, see funny movies if I'm playing Traviata or if I'm singing Mimi, because when you throw yourself into a role, you become it. You really, and it's you have to try new habits to snap out of it. Like Cher slaps Nicolas Cage in Moonstruck, snap out of it. Yeah. It really, because I think that's one of the fascinating points about opera. It can take all of you, and you can give it all. I have friends who have family, and they said, well, I don't give it all because I have to come home to my family. So that changes too, how much energy you give, but all of, it's variable. So I do think about that, and it's really been a good, sadly, tough lessons too, because you don't even realize when it's happening, or when you're sad or stressed or you have anxiety, which is something many performers face and many people in this world in different areas of life face. And what is tricky about anxiety is you think you're thinking clearly and logically, and you're not. So you have to learn a process of questioning and changing certain behaviors, or observing, meditation, reading, friendships, therapy, sport.
These are all part of your life.
All part of my life. Yeah, and for me also the biggest moment was when I was. I engaged in a small, not a small group, but to engage with young kids who are learning about opera, like at Time and Kids, or to meet, the young ladies who are studying at the Kaufman Center, or to work with Young People's Chorus of New York, or to have performed with El Sistema had participated in Milan at the Expo in 2015, and Gustavo Dudamel conducted. The chorus and orchestra, for one of the first times in many years at La Scala, was this young group of wonderful kids. It changes me, and it's sanity to me to have that in my life is so important, so important.
Are you consciously thinking about the audience perception of the experience. What I'm thinking of is, for me as a performer, sometimes I feel like I am performing, I am suffering, this is not my best performance, and yet it is received by other people as a life-changing experience, hopefully, or they'll tell me such.
Yeah.
And then other occasions I feel like, oh, I'm really in my zone, and they said, no,
I know.
the people who are close to me will be honest. They said, that probably not. Are you aware of this stage psychology?
Yeah, and I think that while I'm aware of it, and I just like that word is enough for me, to be aware, because again, my experience and my thoughts may not be the reality. So it could be, but I won't focus on it. I focus on the sport of it, the sport of singing, the tone, how I want to say something, and then also finding ways to release more emotionally, physically, spiritually, to not feel, there's a Spanish word, Nancy Herrera, a fabulous mezzo-soprano from the Canary Islands. We're friends, and she just, the Germans say Ausstrahlung, where you just take the stage and just let the light and just glow. And Nancy Herrera would say, not in German, this is in Spanish, entrégate, which is just open yourself up and give and sing like this, And I love that. I love that because it takes you out of, we have to think technique, but the technique is there to serve the intention, the story, what we're trying to say. And sometimes it is about technique, and you can show off, you could take a cadenza and just, take a risk. Sing piano and then crescendo and diminuendo. Sing piano, go up to a high note, trill it, then come down. There are those moments. But I find that it has to be, for me, connected to the story. It has to be. Otherwise, it's an effect. And it's just like wearing, maybe too much contour.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find that it's an important aim to be able to subvert the process and the technique while you're performing in order to keep your headspace or perhaps your feeling free for just the expression, or is it always both?
Oh, it's everything and all. Awareness, again, it's are you locked? How is your body? Check in, There's just a way, I forget to breathe. I forget to breathe, and breathing is so important, and especially today, we are stuck on our phones. We're probably not taking in oxygen, and we are a living, everything we have is blood, oxygen, flow, and I think just allowing ourselves to take a breath and knowing that you have a companionship with a conductor, but our audience needs a breath as well, and we're all in one theater, and if you think about that, how big of an experience that is, it's just a different awareness, and things change, or you can try, I feel like it's all about awareness.
Let's say I'm playing a Tchaikovsky concerto, and I'm trying to inhabit a world of grand gesture, grand sumptuous sound. It doesn't always come immediately for me on a given day. I am always, of course, in a score that difficult, at least in some corner of my mind, focused fully on the execution, the technique, the craftsmanship. I wish I could get to the point where that is just totally subconscious and I could focus on the direct meaning, the eloquence, and the... You see what I'm trying to get at?
I do. I have a friend, her name is Jennifer Condon. She was a prompter at Hamburg, understudied with Simone Young, now is a young conductor. And she said the most important thing to me, actually. I jumped in to sing La Traviata, and with Verdi, everything is written in the score. And if I observe that and play that, it's enough. So for me, for example, in an aria, the exposed element, the most exposed moment in an opera where you're alone on the stage, I was trying to create the atmosphere. And my friend said, he wrote it. So what happens in that moment now for me is, and every time I'm on set, I think, listen more, And if there is more color or more depth that I would like to have, how can we bring that in together? And there's very little time, as you know, if you're concertizing and touring or putting on a revival, it's very challenging to fit in that time to have those conversations with the conductor, and in turn for the conductor to have those conversations with musicians. But I think if we just, for me, it changed me. I felt like I didn't have to hurry up and bring drama. I could say, the drama is written. Listen, I hear the clarinet. I think of that color. And then I can lean into that sound, which is, it just changed my approach. And I don't know, I wonder if that could relate. But that's one of the things that really changed my, the way I could also hear Gounod as different from Puccini, as different from Verdi, as different from Mozart. It's, the colors are already composed. And Maria Callas always has this quote, you know, about if you're looking for the gesture, you know, listen to the music. It's in there. They thought about it.
Do you feel like you have to essentially change yourself or the core of how you're feeling when you're singing, say, Mimi as opposed to Donna Anna? Is there a process that happens internally that you have to set yourself to an essential change? Absolutely.
I think there has to be, you know, every role is defined through interpretation, through existing music, through legacies. You know, we hear the great artists that are iconic to me have left an imprint on how I think about this role. All of those elements are part of the game, the sport, and a vocal gesture is, you know, how I walk into the room as Mimi, how I'll have a sudden burst of energy and then, you know, catch myself and then have to sit down. But I don't want to sit down. I want to live. I want to be a part of the fun. So all of that is in the way I play a role. Where Donna Anna, I'm very eager to start her. I haven't debuted her yet, but already the psychology is so fascinating because her music is written very clearly, almost with fire and anger and denial and softness and confusion and everything all at once. And what I don't like about a generalization or to overplay a humor or a double entendre is just that. The more we can invest in our characters being as truthful as, like I said, like not overdone, like that there's the cleanness of the music, the spacing, the organization of the phrases is already composed. So to me, that is essential in defining the role. And then every production will add a twist and turn to it. So does Anna, you know, is she in fact enjoying Giovanni? We don't see what happened behind closed doors. We see what happens after. We also see the variable, what is going on between her and Ottavio. We see that as well. But she's a young woman. She's a young Catholic, you know, she has so much to play. I find I would rather not say, I just want to make her as real as can be. Would she fall for the wrong guy? Yes. Who wouldn't? There is an allure. I think that what I love about Mozart operas or opera in general is that you can find a piece of each character in yourself and the character you're playing. So Falstaff, for example, we all probably have an inner Falstaff who wants to, you know, we read books about it. The titles of, you know, I don't give a
yes.
You know, like
right.
How to not, and how to not allow other people's interpretation of us to influence how we're going to save her life. And that's a very tricky situation. Obviously, the discourse of #MeToo is you know, but these are the themes that opera has approached for centuries, and not centuries, you know, for a while. And I don't want to ignore that. I don't want to overplay it and let it just, productions could be tempted to focus on that and give you a generalization. But I think as a public, for me, when I go to the opera, I need to see the authenticity and interpretation, the organization of thought, and, to leave questioning is great, or having a discussion. And your mood changes. Personal things can happen, or if I listen to Zinka Milanov's Donna Anna, I feel like she's gonna peel my skin back with the fury of the sound that she makes.
What an incredible velvety voice.
Yeah, but there's anger, and there's a rage in that sound, and I think it's very different from just anybody else's Donna Anna. But it's fun to play with listening to other people's sounds, and then ultimately what will ring true in my voice, and we'll see. I don't know. So I allow all of that to come in and to play.
Ailyn, what's inspiring you these days, musically or otherwise?
Love, love, love.
How does that factor into the performing life?
I think it's encouraging me to live my life and to be open. Again, it's love casts out fear. Perfect love casts out fear. And I think that especially nerves and anxiety can make you think. It's very interesting. We are in a profession where we perform. And as children, we often don't get to play because we're practicing. Or in those years when we're maturing through teenagers and picking partners, for life, we're off traveling, competing, and I feel like there is a part of what we carry forward, what I've had to deal with is, wait a minute, I'm an adult. I can define, I don't have to always have someone else's bar on my shoulders. I can put it down and say, you know what, I can be at this level of proficiency and grow from there, and I definitely want to do that. But I have to have the awareness that all of those variables are interesting. Like you said, on a great night, your friend was like, meh. And then you, on a struggling night, your friend was like, oh my God, epic. Not that you always have to suffer for your art, because I think that a lot of my singing and throwing myself into these tragic types of scenarios and roles, I did carry an anxious will, a painful type of approach that is not sustainable. It's not healthy. Did it get me to where I am? Yes, but I think that going forward, I don't want to sing out of fear. I don't want to sing out of it's all or nothing right now, where it felt like that. And making a debut in Berlin and you're 20-0, and it's your international, you can fall on your face and then it's over before it even begins. But was it? I'm here, right? So looking back, I think to myself, maybe if I live life with a consideration that it will be, and I am loved, and it is good, then I can be free to just live life, and it's good, and sing from that point of view, which I think is why we're here, right?
Yes, indeed. And I'm so glad to have had you on the show, Ailyn.
Thank you,
so much for having been here and shared from your life.
Thank you for sharing with me. Love
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank
Love
you.
you.
Awesome. It was fun. Yes.